Welcome to another episode of Smash JT. I'm on my way up to Orange County, California from San Diego to meet with the one and only Tommy Tallarico of Intellivision to talk about the Intellivision Amico. Now this thing is quite the controversial gaming device right now in the gaming community. A lot of people have concerns and questions about the authenticity and the integrity of this operation, and instead of sitting on my butt and complaining about it, I figured, you know what? Why don't I drive up and meet with Tommy myself to find out if this thing is as legitimate as he says it is. So today is going to be a pretty interesting episode. You're not going to want to miss it. Stick around. JT. I ended up taking over 3 hours of footage throughout Tommy's entire mansion. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to stick strictly to the gaming portions of his house. Your mind is about to be blown. Is that the shower?
Yeah.
That's wild.
I call it my human car wash.
Take a shower in 3 seconds and be done.
Yeah, exactly. Stuff upstairs, but some rare stuff here. So this was the Super Nintendo emulator. I think they made around 100 of those. This is the machine I did Cool Spot, Earthworm Jim on. A lot of people don't realize that the Famicom actually had a disk drive. It had a keyboard that you can, as add-ons. It had a Rob the Robot, but he was like white and red, like this color. My collection is I have all of this stuff mint in box. I opened all these for the first time. I was the first person to open all this stuff. Yeah.
Never say sorry. Oh, maybe I'll leave.
Pong-like machine from the 70s. See, they didn't. Everyone always thinks when they think of Pong, they always think of the knobs. Yep. But the reality is that a lot of them had like paddles like this or like this. Because think of it, that makes more sense,
Way
right?
more sense, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're doing something with Intellivision that'll blow your mind. I'll tell you about later.
Oh, yeah. Take you like a
A lot of people collect Intellivision games. There's 125 original Intellivision games. And so if you're part of the 125 club, they call it, I do it a little differently. I collect them all in shrink wrap, never opened. $5305.1 for the folks who know. That was the number they gave to Night Stalker. So this is an unopened 6-pack of Night Stalker, never been opened. And you can tell because Night Stalker had the red thing. So
Factory sealed
one of my
box.
favorite games, which is why.
That's got to be like the only one on the planet.
Wait, you're gonna play Night Stalker today, the new one.
Okay.
And you're gonna fucking. It's pretty cool. Nintendo, after the Super Nintendo, they were in talks with Sony to make a CD drive for the next Nintendo machine. Virgin, where I worked in the early 90s, we had this amazing, huge CD-ROM game that was just coming out called The Seventh Guest. And I worked on some sound design for Seventh Guest. A guy by the name of the Fat Man did the music, but I did a lot of sound design for it. And so Nintendo saw that. A lot of people don't know this, but we were working on the very first Nintendo Sony game. We were doing the demo for Nintendo.
Damn.
Yeah. So that didn't pan out. They ended up falling out for a number of reasons. But then Sony said, screw you guys, we're doing our own thing. I was just leaving Virgin at that time because we were just starting Earthworm Jim and all that stuff. The guy who ran the audio department, his name was Buzz Burrows. He works on all the Guitar Hero, Rock Band, and all this stuff. He's in Massachusetts.
And Harmonix, yeah.
Harmonix.
Yep.
He was first introduced to the game industry through me because he was a mixing engineer that worked for Q Sound. And so I did one of the first 3D video games ever, the Terminator on the Sega CD. And it had 3D Q Sound in it. So him and Bernie Stoller, who ended up becoming the president of Sony and then the president of Sega, those two guys worked at Q Sound. I was their first video game thing. He mixed my first album. Then they started running Sony. And so the very, very, very first PlayStation disc that anyone had ever heard or seen, the first disc that you ever put in was the PlayStation demo disc, and I did all the music for that disc.
Wow.
So the first time anyone ever heard a PlayStation was my music. Beautiful, right? You can see the dev kit sections. But what people don't know, the very, very, very first people who worked on the Sony, they're greenish turquoise ones, just sitting next to each other. You know why they changed the name to Pac-Man, right?
I do, but I don't know if
Yes,
everyone
so Puck-Man, they were afraid that kids would take the P and just
draw a
take a
line.
Sharpie or something and make it into an F. So they're like, we're going to change Puck-Man, and forever it was called Pac-Man.
Well, not to mention, look at his nose.
And the nose, I didn't even think of that.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, this is an original. So before they changed the name and everything, so this is from Japan. It was a handheld Puck-Man machine, and you can see how cool this is. And this is Puck-Man, and it was like a little LED, kind of cool thing from Japan. So rare that you find a Puck-Man.
Just like a pill.
Question: what was the very first video game system that Nintendo ever made? Some people might say the NES. People who know a little bit more will say no, it was the Famicom that came out in 1983 in Japan. Really knowledgeable people will say
Game
Game
&
& Watch.
Yes.
You're wrong.
I had a feeling I was wrong.
I had a feeling you're wrong because you're setting me up. So everyone thinks Nintendo's Game & Watch were the first things they did. Completely not true. They were a card company for 100 years.
Yep.
They've been around since the 1800s.
Yep.
But their first foray into video games was actually in the early and mid 70s. In 1975, they came out with two machines. One was called the TV Game 6, which I have upstairs, and the 15.
Oh, 15.
Yes.
Okay.
And it was basically,
I have heard of these.
yeah,
It's
basically just Pong.
Yep.
It's 15 different ways to play Pong. But what you'll notice on here is that you won't notice the Nintendo name anywhere on the machine
Now,
itself.
why is that?
It was on the box, and I'll show you the box upstairs. The first machine came out a little later, and it's more circular, and that was the first one that had Nintendo name on it. So a lot of people who do a lot of digging think that was their first machine because it had Nintendo. But this was in fact, and the one before this, the one upstairs I'll show you, and it came in two different colors, and I have them both. Pristine. Look at this. This is brand new. Wow. You never see. Did you know that Atari had the first wireless controllers?
Look at that
Isn't
thing.
this genius? I got Nolan Bushnell to sign it for me too.
Wow.
Check out this NES. It's in the shape of a car. It was like a Famicom, and these all light up and everything, and it's got radio.
I choke you down just like a pill.
Video games were created. The home video game console was Ralph Baer. And in 1968, he made a video. You can actually see it on YouTube. You put in Ralph Baer brown box, and you'll see a black and white video of him. And he was showing off that you could actually use your television set to control things on screen. And he did this brown box, and he created a bunch of these original brown boxes. One of them is in the Smithsonian Institute. One of them he gave to his son Mark. Ralph Baer was a dear friend of mine. He passed away, I think he was 98 or 96 years old. He passed away a couple of years ago. But I featured him on my PBS special that I had for Video Games Live. One of the museums in Germany where he was from the Cologne area. They have one of the brown boxes. And the Computer Museum in San Jose, in Silicon Valley, has a brown box. And then here is one of the brown boxes. I had Ralph sign it, and he gave this to me after we did the PBS special. I was a very big proponent of, making sure people understood the history of where the home console came from. Now, Mr. Baer ended up doing the first Magnavox, the Magnavox Odyssey. Here's an Odyssey 100. A lot of people don't know this. The Odyssey, which I have upstairs, looked similar to this actually. It was kind of a bigger box. This is there's an Odyssey 100, a 300, a 500, a 1000, all beautiful colors like this. I have them all upstairs. I'll show you. They're really
Orange
cool.
and brown were really in vogue
That was
back
the
then.
thing. If you were in the 70s, you had the fake wood grain. Look at all these. They're beautiful. Look, it's from the 70s. Wonder Wizard. What does this look like to you?
Oh, it looks like a television.
Looks like an Intellivision knockoff. Well, absolutely it was. This was a Bandai knockoff Intellivision, and you even had the carts you would slide in the overlays,
Yep,
and
yep.
It was a pretty decent machine. But and they did 35 different variations of this.
Wow.
So different plates, different colors, different companies did them all over the
I'm
world.
surprised that the crash didn't happen before Atari.
Right?
Maybe it did, and
In
then
the
Atari
70s.
saved it, and then it crashed again.
I mean,
or-
it was just everybody had Pong machines.
Yeah.
But the reason you'll see a lot of these different ones in the 70s, when video games first exploded, everybody rushed to do Pong ripoff. Pong, hockey, tennis, they called it a whole bunch of different things. The floodgates opened, and so every household had one.
What about trademarks?
Right.
What about copyrights? No one cared back then?
You couldn't really
Copyright.
trademark two white paddles on a screen. You know, it was
funny.
always, it was kind of an open thing. But all of these, I mean, look at these. These are beautiful, right? The little and all the different things that's come out, and
And it looks brand new. Like every
all
single one of these looks like.
see that's why I only have 8 variations of these, because I won't buy it unless it's mint in the box. Yeah.
I'd imagine those don't pop up on eBay every day.
No, but I can tell you that when they do, I get them.
I bet.
know? So I feel sorry for any son of a bitch who's bidding against me on any of this stuff, because you're gonna lose.
350 games to be
Yeah,
worked
so
on.
you'll see stuff like Metroid Prime in there, and Metroid Prime 2, and Tony Hawk Pro Skater, some Sonic stuff, Pac-Man stuff, Twisted Metal, Earthworm Jim, Madden Football, Spider-Man, James Bond, Unreal Tournament. Here's something for you. Color a Dinosaur NES in shrink wrap. The Color Dinosaur is known to be one of the worst games ever. Angry Video Game Nerd covered it as well. In the late 90s, I would always be interviewed, and people always talked about, oh, what's some of the best games I've worked on? MDK, Earthworm Jim, you can see them all. Disney's Aladdin, like all the Super Nintendo stuff, Cool Spot, all that. I said, well, let me tell you about the worst game I ever worked on. And so this kind of became like lore of this like really bad Color Dinosaur game. And what started happening is it was so bad that people wanted to start collecting it. So if you look on collecting, like for Color Dinosaur and stuff, you look at those carts, they're like $800 now, and you never see one in a shrink wrap.
I've
So
never
there you
seen
go, Color a Dinosaur
What's the back look like?
in the shrink wrap. Totally horrible.
And what did you do on that game?
I did all the sound for
You
it
did all the sound
in
for that
24 hours. Yeah.
That sounds like an ET from Atari story.
Oh, it is very much that. Very much that. But yeah, so much stuff. Here's the Aladdin Master System. A lot of people don't
I didn't even know that existed.
realize that. Yeah, but they basically, because the Master System was still a big thing in Europe. When we did the Genesis version, it became such a huge hit. They're like, let's go back and make it for older systems. So this was Aladdin. Did the same thing for Global Gladiators, which was a big game on the Sega Genesis. But so then they made a Master System version. Wow. They went backwards. And we did the same thing with, here's Earthworm Jim on the Game Boy.
Yeah.
But we did the original versions first, and then we did the... So here's the one, a lot of people think this was the first Nintendo
'cause
machine.
it says
Isn't that beautiful though?
Yeah.
But this is the first time their name appeared on the console. Really beautiful stuff. But this, here it is, the TV Game 6. So you'll see 1977 Nintendo right there. And
But on the console itself, it doesn't say it.
it
Right?
does not, no. It looks like the one downstairs, basically. They just changed the faceplate and changed the board underneath.
Wow.
And they put a selector there. There it is, never been out of the plastic.
I love how you have these like amazing systems just like sitting around your house. It's like no big deal. Here it is.
Well, I got it. Well, because I'm cleaning out the back room and I'm gonna I have a big display. I want to put them. This one, there's some really cool stuff. Look at this. This is a Pong machine as well, right? Look at how cute this is. Look at that. Isn't that neat?
That's got to be the smallest one, right?
Right? Smallest one that I've ever seen and know about. I probably have about, I don't know, I'd say 60 to 70% of every console ever made from 1970 to 1985. I have a list of stuff I'm looking for still and really rare stuff.
You could legit open up a museum.
Oh yeah, totally. Here's all the Aquarius stuff from Mattel. This wasn't officially an Intellivision, but you can see these were the, kind of looks familiar.
Yeah.
But this was the Aquarius. They had like a printer, and this was the cassette, all brand new. You probably know this. This is a rare one.
Yeah, dude.
From Japan, the GameCube.
Yeah.
Japan only with the mirror
Panasonic
surface,
GameCube.
Panasonic. Here's another. This was what the original one was called, the Ham&X. That was the Intellivision ripoff. Wow. Yeah. Ham&X. Actually, no, I'm sorry, I screwed that up. Arcadia 2001, Emerson, that was the original. This was a knock. Ham&X was a company that did a lot of these knockoff things. Here's another version of the Famicom that people they did 3 different colors.
I've never seen this.
No.
Is this a dev kit one? What is this?
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
It was just a knockoff one that Sharp did. A lot of the old controllers used to be like this. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And so a really rare system is this one here. This is called I forget what this stood for. I have it written down.
Looks like an answering machine.
It looks so bad. It's so ugly. It's cool. Those are really rare.
What is that
Look
thing?
at this.
Yeah, what is that?
This is the Omni. You don't know the Omni?
No.
This was an 8-track. You put the 8-track in, and everybody played together. And so you had to like spell out things or answer multiple choice questions. What? I mean, this is family gaming right here. You can't even freaking do this nowadays. You can't do this with a Switch. 4 people answering multiple choice questions, right? True. Fun stuff. Famicom had a disk drive to it. You saw it downstairs. Yeah. But did you know that all of the... Now, remember, this is pre-NES. This is before 1985, right? Yeah. A lot of stuff. So there's Mario F1 Racing. These have never been opened. Look at that. Castlevania, baby. Japanese disk drive.
Dude, that is beautiful art.
Look at
the original Mario 2.
This is Mario. There it is. Zelda 2.
Wow.
And then, of course, the original.
I love that style.
And what do we got? There you go. Original Metroid. So again, everybody thinks like, oh, I played Metroid on the NES, and that was, people don't know it existed before that, right?
And just the amount of effort and work that went into just the box art back then.
Like, we're bringing it all back, my friend.
It's beautiful.
That's what I'm saying. People have no idea. This was Ralph Baer as well.
Oh, I remember those games with the triangles, right?
Yeah, beautiful silver triangles.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So unique.
Yeah.
You know I never will. No. So I choke you down just like a pill.
Have you ever heard of the Zavex video game system?
A familiar word.
So everyone
but no.
thinks that the Wii was like, one of the first with motion controls. This was before Wii Bowling. You had this. Boom, look, it has a little hand strap for it. And all these games, the golf, the tennis, why did that system fail and the Wii took off? Was because the games were crappy. Right? And so it just goes to show how important, even when you have amazing technology and you're ahead of the game, you have to have the games. And that's the biggest thing, where people can say as much negative stuff as they want about Intellivision, but when you play, and you're going to play them too, when you play the games and you see the controller and you hear all the information about it, you're like, holy crap. Wow.
It's all coming together.
Yeah.
Take you like a
So they did an Intellivision 2 without the red stripe, and they did one with the red stripe. So that's brand new. Super Pro system, that was after they had left Mattel. And I like these. Those silver disc and the black controllers.
That's the one I had.
You have that one? Yeah. This is a rare one. This is the Intellivision. Sylvania did a model, and they put red lights here. Because you never knew when the thing was on. Right?
And isn't that funny? Because Sylvania does light bulbs now. Right?
There you go. Exactly.
So, interesting.
Here's a System 3. But the most rare one that you can never find, there's the Sears one, which is all white and brown. That was a nice one. The controllers were white and gold. I thought it was kind of neat. But this is the most rare one, and this has never been opened. This is actually, I take that back. I did open it because I wanted to, see it all beautiful, but I put it back. But the manuals. So this is the Bandai version of Intellivision, which was only out, look at that, in Taiwan and Hong Kong, Japan.
And it's funny, the way they did the box art, it looks like the back is the front, because they want to advertise all the games.
They want to advertise the family and all the games.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything.
Feel you're like a pill to get my fill.
So I'm going to turn this whole area into, but you'll see some cool Vectrex, Microvision. You ever see they made this joystick for the Vectrex? Isn't that cool? An actual.
Wow.
Yeah, it was an aftermarket thing. It wasn't a. Cause I love the Vectrex. I might buy that company next. Here's a Pong machine designed by Nolan Bushnell. These are all of the DAT tapes and recording I used for like Earthworm Jim and like all the
originals.
Now all of this stuff is all equipment that I used in the day. So that's all my personal, all the development boards for the Genesis and the Super Nintendo and the Game Boy and all the cards and all the original stuff that I used to create all the games with. Is that whole section there. And then these are some of my original, you got Dreamcast and stuff like that. These are all a lot of the dev kits and stuff. I have like 3DO dev kits and things. But then these were kind of my personal Intellivision games that I still have. And you'll see Vectrex stuff, Vectrex boxes, Sony boxes. I keep all the boxes and stuff too, because like even when I'm doing Amico, I want to see what the others did. I want to see what other people are doing. Can I learn from that? Either from their mistakes or from their successes. So, yeah, Amico box is going to be similar to this, but it's a little shorter even like that. But this is about the size. Because you look at the PlayStation and Xboxes now, they're huge.
Massive.
Retail, it's all about square footage. How much money are you making per square foot in the back?
Yep.
In the back room, That's, again, just something that people don't take into consideration when they think about how we're doing things.
Wow, what a freaking day. Tommy took me through his entire house like it's like a museum, and then to Intellivision headquarters and showed me everything they're working on, the inner workings of the console, the games that they're working on, the special things that he has in store for people that he can't talk about yet because patents that are pending. But let me tell you, Tommy said you need to see it to believe it. And after seeing this thing, I kind of believe it. And I don't want to be a rah-rah. I met this guy who's quasi-famous and he's a big deal, so now I'm jumping on his nuts because he's so popular. No, I mean, I feel like he's a legitimately good, down-to-earth dude that has the best intentions. And honestly, his passion is making the games fun, which I feel like a lot of AAA titles kind of gotten away from these days. It's all about making graphics as good as you can make them, and all these companies trying to one-up each other. And Tommy's like, let's scale it back a bit and bring the family back to the living room. And the games I played, some of them were really different experiences. Games that I never even thought could exist, and things that you could only do on the Intellivision Amico. Like, It was a game that you had to say a word backwards, and then the computer would replay it, and it would be whoever said it forwards right enough would get the most points. And it was not really how it worked, but it was along those lines, and it was just different, a different kind of experience that I'd never really felt before playing a game. And then of course he showed me a few other games, some reimagined games from the original Intellivision, and they look spectacular. They played amazing, and some things I'm not allowed to talk about that we utilized while playing them that I was like, oh, now I see why you're so passionate behind this project. There's a lot of potential for this thing. I wish Tommy nothing but the best of luck, and I will definitely be following it closely because I feel like this thing definitely has a chance. I'm going to leave it there, but I'd be very interested to hear what you guys have to say about the Intellivision Amico. If maybe your mindset has changed a little bit the more you hear about this thing, or if you just hate on new things until you actually play them yourself, which, I'll be honest, I need to learn not to do as much anymore because Tommy made me a believer. I'll leave it right there. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, you stay smashing.
Smash,